We never asked for anything, and we never got anything. We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force, where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that. Okay? Now everyone's saying, oh, good. That's probably the biggest statement I made, because people thought I would use force. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force.
That's Donald Trump speaking earlier this morning in Davos at the World Economic Forum, talking about Greenland there and saying that he won't use force. I know there are some people breathing a sigh of relief on that front, but let's take a look at this story from the Canadian perspective. This week in the Globe and Mail, Robert Fife, he's had a few bylines tackling Canadian sovereignty and some news out of the Canadian Armed Forces, and he's on the line right now. Robert, welcome back to the program.
Good morning.
So let's talk about all of this here. And first things first, I want to start off with a story from just a few days ago in the Globe and Mail that your byline was on about Canada weighing a plan to send soldiers to Greenland as a show of NATO solidarity. Tell me about what you've been hearing on that front.
Well, the Canadian Armed Forces has put in a plan in place where they could dispatch a very small contingent of soldiers to Greenland. It could happen within days if the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, gives his approval. They would be joining 8 European countries, that includes Great Britain, who have also sent small numbers of troops for exercises in Greenland. These exercises are really were at the request of Denmark, and as a show of solidarity for Denmark to send a strong message to the president that Greenland is part of Denmark. It's a semi-autonomous area, but it's part of Denmark. Denmark is a NATO country. Greenland is a NATO country. There is already a U.S. base in Greenland, and it could easily be expanded. And NATO is willing to put even more troops in Greenland if the Americans wish that to be the case, to improve the security situation against China and Russia. So the whole message here is there's no need for you to buy or annex Greenland, President Trump. This could fracture the NATO alliance, which has been around since after the Second World War, and has provided peace and stability in Europe for 80 years. So don't destroy NATO over something that can be easily fixed through negotiation.
And as you and your colleague Stephen Chase were reporting, that plan was awaiting final political approval from Prime Minister Mark Carney. I wonder, in light of what we heard from the Prime Minister yesterday in Davos, in light of thoughts about, well, geez, you don't necessarily want to poke the bear, what are the political calculations for Mark Carney in a decision like this?
Well, it's a tough decision because the 8 European countries who sent troops to Greenland, the president reacted by saying he might hit them with 10% and then 25% tariffs. And then it went on to say later on about France, he might hit them with 100% tariffs on their wine and champagne. So obviously we've already got some pretty significant tariffs against Canada in terms of our autos and our steel and our aluminum and copper. So you have to weigh that kind of decision. And if you send troops in, even though they're small number, and it's all really for the good of the NATO alliance, does the president, as he often does, overreact and slap on more tariffs, which would, cost Canadians jobs and whatnot. So, that's the thing he's got to weigh, and we'll see if he ends up making that decision or not. We expected it to be very soon, and it still has not happened. He's on a plane now heading back to Canada, but he's going to be going to Quebec City for a federal cabinet retreat over the next 2 days.
Now, can I ask you, with Robert Fife, Ottawa bureau chief over at the Globe and Mail, do you think yesterday's speech in Davos changes any of those equations, calculations on, and maybe what we heard from the president this morning, changes any of those calculations on this military exercise?
I honestly don't know. Look, the Prime Minister gave a very Churchillian speech that's been lauded all around the world. He's basically saying that, the rules-based international order that we've known since the Second World War is crumbling, and that the big powers are acting in their own interest, and they don't care about their allies, and they use economic and military powers to get what they want. And that middle powers like Canada and European countries are going to have to work together and cooperate together to stand up to these bullies. Otherwise, if they do it individually, they'll be on the menu. So it was a very tough speech. It really just said what is the obvious, but it said it so well. He just got a lot of praise around the world, and of course, the president didn't like it. He took some shots at Mark Carney today and said that Carney and Canada is not grateful. I'm not sure what we're grateful for, given the fact that he's slapped on these tariffs against Canada. He's talked about Canada becoming the 51st state. Just on early Tuesday morning, he posted a map on Truth Social that had Cuba, Venezuela, Greenland, and Canada as part of the United States. So I'm not sure what we should be grateful for.
Well, with that in mind, Robert, let's get to your other piece of the week. You and Gavin John writing on this one for the Globe and Mail about the Canadian Armed Forces modeling out a hypothetical U.S. military invasion of Canada. Now, first things first, how did that story make it your way?
Well, I don't tell people how. Yeah. I talk to people. They tell me things.
Well, yeah, but it must have been surprising. I mean, I guess your reaction.
I was more surprised that they were willing to talk about it. I'm not surprised that, given what's been unfolding over the last year, that they put some thoughts to modeling what could potentially be a U.S. invasion. This is very hypothetical, by the way. This is theoretical. It's conceptual. It's not like military models are not the same as military plans, where military plans are very deeply thought out. With troops have to go here, arms shipments there. It's very, very detailed, step-to-step operational details. This is just a hypothetical scenario for a possible U.S. invasion. But having said that, we haven't done that kind of modeling for over 100 years. So it just shows you how things quickly have deteriorated in a year since Donald Trump came into office.
And Robert, how serious do the people that you're speaking to take it? Like, is this?
Look, they don't believe that the United States is going to invade Canada. Canadian military has very, very good relationship with the U.S. Their U.S. counterparts. They've been cooperating through NORAD on continental defense and NATO for decades. But the fact of the matter is that the president has been saying the kind of things I just outlined to you. The people in the White House have been hostile to Canada. NBC reported over the weekend that the White House has been increasingly complaining that Canada is a hostile country. Steve Bannon, who used to be his chief strategist but is still a Trump whisperer, has been talking about taking over Canada as well. Yeah. So even though this is not, nobody seriously think it would happen, it'd be foolish not to at least model this out, because we have basically a crazy man in the White House, and it's very hard to restrain him.
Robert, listen, our listeners always appreciate your time on this program. Thanks so much for coming on today.
You're welcome. Thanks.
That's Robert Fife, the Ottawa bureau chief at the Globe and Mail.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years.
And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.